Great kick.
Let's talk about the route here for the Vikings, because after last night with the Rams, things got really interesting. I was kind of feeling like, okay, Seattle will probably beat the Rams, and then we won't have to talk about this anymore. Then it could be all about playoff positioning and matchups. But now the Rams have, depending on how you feel about playoff percentage chances, but basically a 1 in 3 chance to get into the playoffs. If the Rams win 2 out of their last 3 and the Vikings lose 2 out of their last 3, Rams are in because they have a tiebreaker over the Vikings. Don't ask me exactly how, but that's what Al Michaels said, and I believe him. So somebody else did this, and the playoff machine says that. So I believe the playoff machine on ESPN. Once you get into weird, division records,
there's a slightly larger team
yeah.
of information finders with Al Michaels' staff
than
than what
you
have here.
We basically have Jonathan, and he's mostly sound finder and guest booker. That's not statistical analyst. That's actually supposed to be me.
Your stats are your own, as they say. It's like it's like Twitter. My thoughts are my tweets are my own.
Yeah, that's right. Then retweets aren't endorsements.
So we're going off that Al Michaels says if the Vikings lose 2 out of 3.
And the Rams win 2 out of 3. So if they end up with the same record, the Rams are in, the Vikings are out. And looking at the opponents, the Chargers are no gimme. That's for sure. They just kicked the hell out of Jacksonville yesterday. So no gimme. On the road, on grass, the Vikings have had problems in those situations, and a quarterback who might go to the Hall of Fame. So even though I don't think they're a great team, it's still a good team that could beat you. And since Chase Daniel and Matt Moore beat you this year, I can't trust you entirely.
Man, isn't that amazing?
It is, yeah, that those two guys on grass, on the road, same thing. And that's one to kind of throw up the caution flag. And, of course, Aaron Rodgers and then the Chicago defense.
So based off these last 2 games, you would almost say, like, this game is a must win.
Oh, it's huge.
To take the pressure off and to take the anxiety off for weeks. I mean, if you're thinking we have to beat Green Bay and we have to beat Chicago, that's going to be a stressful Christmas holiday into the new year, because those are going to be very, very close ball games, and this should be a good game too. So I'm glad you get to go out there and to get a little bit of sun and cover this football game.
Yes, I'm excited about that. I'll be doing some stuff from there.
By the way,
can I just make sure I said that right? I might have said it wrong. If the Vikings lose 2 out of 3 and the Rams win 2 out of 3. Okay. So making sure,
because we're 1 game ahead of them.
Yes, exactly. So if they end with the same record, then it goes to the Rams.
Yes. So we need to win 2 out of 3
at
the end here. By the way, that NFC West, for as bad as the NFC East is, with the Cowboys at 6-7, and the Eagles at 5-7. The NFC West, 49ers 11-2, Seahawks 10-3, Rams 8-5. I mean, that is absolutely no fun.
It is
to play in that division this year, and those teams are going to be battle tested when they get to playoffs. That's for sure.
So here's what Los Angeles has coming up, and you can tell me after last night where they really kicked the heck out of Seattle, and with Robert Woods back in the lineup, they're a different team when they have their receiving weapons. Robert Woods is a great player, and he was really good last night. So let's assume they're full strength down the stretch.
They got some guys that can fly.
They really do. And Cooper Kupp is a good player too, but he can't do it on his own. Woods, Brandon Cooks.
Gurley was good last night.
Yeah, he actually looked like old Gurley.
Old Gurley, yeah.
So they play at Dallas, at San Francisco, and home against Arizona.
If it comes down to, like, the Vikings have to beat Chicago.
Doesn't it feel like that, though?
And they have to lose to Arizona or something. It's like Arizona's going to screw the Vikings again. I'm telling you. It's like the Josh McCown 2002 game.
Right. Only the opposite, where Arizona will get trucked by the Rams. But these 2 games, if you split them between the Chargers and the Packers, that's why this game is so huge against the Chargers. Because if you win this one, then all you have to do is split one of the last 2, and you're good to go. You're in the playoffs, more likely than not, because the Rams having to go to San Francisco is going to be really, really tough for them. But if they somehow pull out a win there, you are in a situation where you could lose out on a playoff spot here. So I want to know, did you see something different from the Rams, or is this just a great job by McVay fixing their problems? Because a couple of weeks ago, they looked like they were dead in the water after the Ravens put up 40-something points against them.
Well, they did add a cornerback. We talked about this last week about 2 first-rounders.
A cornerback that you said, who needs them?
A cornerback without a contract. That's what you have. You have a cornerback without a contract, and you have no first-rounders the next 2 years. So you know what? He better make I'm not saying that Jalen Ramsey wasn't a great player and wouldn't add a lot to the Vikings defense if they would have had trade for him, but 2 first rounders with no contract, I don't make that deal.
I agree with you.
I don't like, selling my future that much. I think sometimes you have to give up a second rounder. You really need a guy, but 2 first rounders is a ton for a team that's already spent 4 first rounders on that very same position, right? So I just think that's a lot. But to help out for this season, yeah, Jalen Ramsey's great, and he played well yesterday. Made a couple plays last night, and so for this season, it's they can make a run here, but they got that division's tough, and obviously they're going to be playing on the road if they do make the playoffs in the first round.
I still think you could have talked me into it. Philly actually,
but better record has the home game. Are you on that? What team are you on? You win the division. You play a home game or better record home game with this wild card stuff.
I am 100% on the NFC East winner shouldn't even make the playoffs because that's a joke.
No one's sold that one yet.
I know, and that's silly that no one has brought this up.
If you're
a team that goes 8-8 and everybody else is 10-6, they just shouldn't be in it.
Is 8-8 or 7-9? I think if you're under 500, you cannot. No one makes the playoffs.
Automatically disqualified.
Automatically, yes.
I just don't like the divisions are cool for rivalries, for scheduling. Like, oh yeah, we got to make sure that you build up the hype when it's Bears and Vikings. That's great. Or Packers, Vikings. Let's make sure the regional teams hate each other.
You want regional people just to not like each other, like New Yorkers and Philly. Like
absolutely.
It's
wouldn't change that at all.
Yeah, it's like goes back to the days of the villages and where we hate the people that are so close to us because we fish in the same ponds or something.
Yes. If anyone asks me about Warsaw High School, bleep them. Okay, bleep the Tigers. Anyway, so definitely it's cool to have rivalries. All right. But I don't think you should get rewarded so much for winning against a bunch of other piles of junk. Oh, good for you. You beat Washington a couple of times. Congratulations. You get a home playoff game. Home playoff games just mean too much to give them to teams who end up with 7-9 or 8-8. Out of pure ridiculous luck that the other teams in the division are trash.
The fact that Cowboys are 6-7, and I think they've got a pretty good roster. And I like Prescott as a quarterback. He's leading the league in offense a couple weeks ago, and I thought their defense the D line was impressive versus the Vikings. And I thought they got some good players out there, and for them missing Van Der Esch as much as they've missed him has really hurt. He's obviously a very, very good player, so a tackle machine. But the fact that they're 6-7, you have to look at coach, and you got to imagine this is the end of the road. For Jason Garrett.
Yes. And very awkward for their players because there's a bunch of reports out like they're going to look at Urban Meyer and things like that. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's already. So by the way, if somehow the Bears make the playoffs,
oh man,
I'll be so upset. It's like because I've just been sort of down on the whole Nagy more than Trubisky. Like I'm always like, how would Mitchell Trubisky do in this offense? I
think he'd be pretty good. Yeah,
they would run 15 bootlegs a game or whatever. But I just think that offense they have in Chicago. I've seen enough film this year. I'm like, man, what are they doing over there? Like that? They just ran this jet sweep and there's nobody out in front and there's a corner just sitting there and there's no one there to block him. Like that's terrible coaching. I don't know what's going on here, but there's no one blocked the forced player. That's pretty simple as far as trying to have an effective offense. And they do that seems like 2 or 3 times a game. Like what are they trying to design here? Because that's a really nice play run against the worst defense possible, and they'll do that.
Well, I would say that when you have that feeling that something you've been criticizing and talking about could go completely against you, welcome to media.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time where you've got logic and you've got a good process and you think, yes, this is my conclusion. This is the take I'm going with. And then sports, they get you.
But I've tried to make this off of I try to be patient. I try to sort of jump to conclusions too quickly and he's terrible or he's the worst or he's the best. I tried to do that to sort of, see how a career plays out, especially like a young quarterback. Like, a guy's bad in his first year or so. I'm not going to say he's going to be terrible because I was awful my rookie year and then just slowly got better and better. And you actually can improve, with like good coaching and the off season and real work with pro coaching, you can actually get better. But in the Nagy situation, I feel like I've just seen so much and I've been so unimpressed by a lot of what they do that, now if after a year and a half, all of a sudden they get super hot and they win a whole bunch of football games to get the playoffs, that would drive me crazy. But if you talk about the stats, I mean, the stats of Trubisky for the whole year have been terrible. The last few weeks have been much better, but they're still not all that great. They're still
Yeah.
like in the 20s or something like that.
And they've played some not impressive teams,
not
which
great teams.
Always helps you look better. Well, I'll give you mine. Before the Buffalo game last year, I was like, I don't know, 0.1% chance Buffalo beats the Vikings. And they did, because that's football for you.
I think that, the Vikings, they weren't going to lose yesterday, but a lot of teams can lose to pretty much anybody. It's just sort of the way it is. And, again, Kirk did say that last week, both they're paid a lot of money over there.
Yep.
And that's an organization who's got a lot of good athletes, and those guys are getting paid too. And just because their record's not great doesn't mean that we couldn't lose to them. And that's very true about the NFL, more than college football, more than high school football.
Yes.
There's not the mismatch. The difference isn't